The mind and the brain are part of a single system. Changing the mind will result in changing the brain. Scientists can detect mental activity by observing the brain, and they learn some interesting things when they do. For example, a twinning study that examined the brain activity of London taxi drivers showed that they had heightened activity in the hippocampus region, the part of the brain that houses visual and spatial memories. Engaging in activities like meditation heightens cognitive acuity over time. The brain also benefits from exercise in other parts of the body. A 2016 study in neurology reported that older people who exercise have cognitive abilities typical to people who are 10 years younger than they are. Conversely, older people who reported lower levels of exercise performed more poorly, particularly in terms of executive function, semantic memory, and processing speed. Practicing meditation, self-awareness, and self-compassion will reduce suffering. The brain has utilized three main survival tactics throughout its evolutionary history: separation, stability, and seeking pleasure while avoiding pain. Separation is necessary to help organisms protect themselves from the outside world. Stability imposes control over the body's ever-changing internal systems. The impulse to seek pleasure and evade pain helps to secure advantageous opportunities and escape danger. Once critical to survival, these tactics have become sources of pain. To lessen this pain, it helps to practice self-compassion, or an attitude of generosity and goodwill toward oneself. Kristen Neff and Christopher Germer, leading self-compassion researchers and clinical psychologists, define self-compassion as being touched by and open to one's own suffering, not avoiding or disconnecting from it, generating the desire to alleviate one's suffering and heal oneself with kindness. According to Neff and Germer, self-compassion is an extremely useful way to diminish alienation and increase a sense of connectedness to the self and to the rest of the larger world. In a 2017 article for the Harvard Business Review, Germer argued that self-compassion is an antidote to failure because it can help limit the shame that comes with having underperformed or failed outright. He likens self-compassion to the understanding and empathy that people readily give to others who have experienced setbacks, and observes that many people fail to offer that same generous attitude to themselves. Germer outlines three facets of self-compassion: mindfulness, common humanity, and self-kindness. Mindfulness helps people identify when they are struggling, creating an awareness and some distance from the thoughts that they are having. Recognizing the thread of common humanity puts difficulties into a larger perspective. Self-kindness is an attitude of generosity and warmth applied to the self. For evolutionary reasons, the brain is wired to be attentive to negativity. Emotional responses to stimuli are primarily generated by the amygdala. They help people determine which experiences they would like to have and which they would like to avoid. Since negative experiences are a greater threat to survival than positive ones, it is the negative experiences that have greater staying power. To progress on the path of awakening, it is important to seek out positive experiences to balance out the natural bias toward negativity. In a 2017 article for Forbes, contributor Margie Worrell shares an experience from her family that illustrates the lasting impact of undesirable experiences. 14 years after Worrell showed up 4 minutes late to her daughter Maddie's dance recital, Maddie has yet to let her mother forget it, even though Worrell's track record shows that she was apparently on time far more than she was tardy. Worrell cites negativity bias as a way to explain her daughter's sticky memory. Rather than remain natural pessimists, Worrell believes that it is possible for people to shift negativity bias to achieve more success, especially in the workplace, where negativity bias can become self-sabotage. Practicing gratitude can take the edge off negativity. Taking time to appreciate and praise colleagues can shift the focus from negative to positive. Worrell's tips may help increase overall success in the workplace, where an appreciative and optimistic colleague is better received by peers than someone who tends to see the downside of situations. Having an attitude of gratitude will likely generate goodwill with colleagues. The Buddha called the suffering that is unavoidable the first dart of existence. The reaction to that suffering, which is avoidable, is the second dart of existence. No human being is immune to suffering. In fact, the capacity to endure pain is a characteristic all people share. However, one particular type of suffering is optional. The second dart, or how people respond to painful experiences, can either create more suffering or work to alleviate it. To reduce stress, people can learn to identify and reduce their second dart reactions. Take the example of two college-age sisters, Elizabeth and Dana. Elizabeth, who is older by 1 year, has recently been rejected from her dream job in the beauty industry, a disappointment that feels like a first dart. This would be painful enough on its own, but Elizabeth had been hoping that her dream job would alleviate the stress of entering the workforce and all the other attendant financial and social anxieties of young adulthood. Elizabeth takes this rejection personally, and it throws her into what feels like a permanent funk. She tells herself, "I'll never figure things out. I'll never have the success that I desire." These self-limiting beliefs are examples of second darts of existence. Making matters worse, Elizabeth reacts poorly to Dana's recent huge achievement, a prestigious internship in a scholarly field. Elizabeth layers on even more second darts, responding to her sister's success with thoughts such as, "She's so much better than me. I bet she'll get her dream job." The example of Dana and Elizabeth illustrates how second darts can cause self-inflicted wounds. Elizabeth might be unaware that she is only making matters worse for herself. Fortunately, she can alleviate much of her pain by first being mindful of what she is doing. When she sees how much harder she's making things for herself, Elizabeth can counter her negative thoughts with more affirming ones, such as, "Everything will work out for me. I'll have another chance, and there are lots of jobs I'll be good at doing." The knowledge that second dart suffering is a choice is the most important factor in her improvement. Once Elizabeth knows better, she will do better. Understanding the relationship between the autonomic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system can help people achieve calm and improve their well-being. When people are threatened, their sympathetic nervous system SNS activates, creating a sense of heightened alert, also known as fight or flight. The autonomic nervous system ANS, a component of the larger nervous system, houses the parasympathetic nervous system PNS. To decrease stress, an activated PNS will restore balance. Relaxation exercises like taking a deep breath or letting out a sigh send signals from the PNS that danger has receded. Acclaimed yoga teacher Saul David Ray says that fast-paced consumer and media culture overstimulates the SNS, which holds people in general states of fight or flight. In his view, the trend toward hyperactivity makes it all the more important to focus on nurturing activity in the PNS. When stimulated, the PNS generates a feeling of ease. Regarding activities like prayer, yoga, and meditation, all of which support the PNS, Ray explains. When we go into the internal experience, we're in the same time zone the wind is in, the earth is in. Ray offers specific exercises and poses to support the PNS and calm the mind. He observes that the way to bring peace to the world is to first experience it within oneself. His comments echo basic Buddhist teachings that change effected within has a positive ripple effect outward. Mindful intentions are useful for retaining motivation. Focused intentions are required to advance along the path of awakening. For example, a man might set an intention to be more kind, compassionate, or giving. These positive intentions will have an effect on his brain. But if he begins to crave what he intends, he will feel dissatisfaction and angst. Although positive intentions are important, excessive focus on their outcome is detrimental to psychological health. In his podcast *The Bodhisattva and the Power of Intention*, best-selling author Jack Kornfield distinguishes between short and long-term intentions. As he tells his listeners, finding long-term intention is a way of setting the compass of the heart. Directing our power of intention in a positive forward direction is essential. After a spiritual retreat, it is important to focus our intention on our path beyond the moment. An emphasis on the long term may help reduce the urgency of cravings. If an intention is meant to unfold over a longer period of time, then expectations for bringing an intention to fruition must be tempered with patience. Compassion and assertion are necessary for maintaining healthy and vital relationships. Feeling empathy for someone will strengthen bonds of cooperation and goodwill. But being tender-hearted toward others doesn't mean sacrificing honesty. For example, a man who is assertive may have an easier time expressing compassion. If he is clear about his needs, he is less likely to be resentful and more able to offer genuine compassion for others. In Women Who Love Too Much 1985, the classic text on unhealthy compassion, best-selling author Robin Norwood describes the plight of women who offer compassion and yet have no ability to assert their own needs. According to Norwood, some women are so compassionate that they do not know how to assert their own needs and possibly do not even know what their own needs are. Norwood identifies herself as one such woman, writing, "We are drawn to those who are needy, compassionately identifying with their pain, and seeking to relive it in order to ameliorate our own." The result of this unhealthy behavior can be devastating. When people divorce themselves from their true desires and feelings, they are at risk of losing themselves in another person, usually a partner. As a result, they can end up in unhealthy, codependent relationships. What people like this have a hard time understanding is that they cannot fix the other person, and therefore they need to focus on themselves and whatever trauma or traumas they have been suppressing. An inclusive perspective, wherein all humankind is connected and part of one large community, cultivates goodwill. Love and hate exist in all beings. People have a choice as to which side of their nature they want to nurture, the loving side or the hateful side. When they act from a place of love, individuals are able to see the best in others and feel a sense of connectedness. They find joy in others' happiness and sorrow in their sadness. When people act from a place of hate, they immediately reduce their sense of community, heightening alienation and various negative states. Acting from a loving place, even toward those who have been hurtful, is part of the path to enlightenment. In an October 2016 article for Quartz, Suzanne Gillette describes the experience of viewing all of humanity as one, in response to a distressingly violent news story. Gillette felt instantly repulsed by the news and hid from her thoughts by turning her attention back to a book she was reading. The book described the principle of Tonglen, a meditation practice that involves sending love and compassion to others. According to Gillette, Tonglen ties into the idea that when we hurt others, we're really hurting ourselves. So when regarding someone who's committed any type of transgression, including crimes, we can and should find compassion for the self-injury they've caused. Though she did not consciously employ the practice of Tonglen, the concepts sank in, and a few hours later, she had a brief and intuitive moment of identification with perpetrators of violence, feeling what it might be like to be in their shoes. She writes, "I was undeniably humbled, devastated that someone within our tribe could cause himself and others such harm." This is one example of what it means to find compassion in the face of violence and one depiction of what it means to consider oneself to be part of a wider circle of humanity. Meditation helps increase mindfulness, which is a prerequisite to wisdom. Meditation improves concentration. Buddhism upholds 5 different paths for stabilizing the mind, including rapture, which results when a person feels compelled to study something, and singleness of mind, which is a state marked by an extreme awareness of the present moment. When a person is deep in concentration, he or she naturally becomes aware of the causes of suffering and the means to cultivate well-being. Meditation doesn't require a belief in New Age or other metaphysical principles. As acclaimed meditation guru Bob Roth explains in *Strength in Stillness, the power of transcendental meditation *2018, he does not fit the mold of what a stereotypical meditation teacher might look and sound like. He is a natural skeptic, more obsessed with science than I am with baseball, which is to say, I like things to be simple, practical, and thoroughly, unassailably logical. By positioning himself as a skeptic, Roth makes meditation more available to diverse approaches and mentalities, and therefore, more approachable. Roth discovered transcendental meditation in the late 60s, when he was having problems with energy, sleep, and concentration. At his friend's urging, he went to a TM seminar. Instantly, he was hooked because the results were tangible. He became a TM instructor and learned that the process would help people to transcend to effortlessly access the deep stillness that lies within every human being. In his years of experience as a teacher and meditator, Roth has seen firsthand how stress gone unchecked can impair cognition and stifle learning. Keeping the ego in check helps people feel happier and engaged in life. It's important to relax and let go of personal attachments. Being engaged with the present moment causes people to feel more at ease and able to enjoy their role in the larger cosmos. Poet and essayist Mary Oliver captures this idea of relaxing the self perfectly in *Blue Pastures* 1995, a book of prose on nature and writing. Drawing a comparison between old poetry and new poetry, Oliver declares that when a first-person reference appears in contemporary poetry, it is meant to represent the experiences of the author, whereas in old poetry, the it was not at all a knowable person. And it was, even more importantly, a conduit between myself and the divine timelessness of the poem. If it was really Shelley who stood and listened to the skylark, it was not Shelley in any important sense. The Romantic poets Oliver cites were heavily invested in transcendental experiences, which led them to find solitude in nature. In Oliver's view, the representation of the self in old poetry invites readers to be more present in the moment, more observant and focused, much like the experience of being on the path of awakening.